Good morning. My name is Richard Namme, and I'll be reading Judges chapters 8 through 10 with you. Zebah and Zalmunna routed. Then the men of Ephraim said to him, "What is this thing you have done to us, not calling us when you went to fight Midian?" And they contended with him vigorously. But he said to them, "What have I done now in comparison with you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God has given the leaders of Midian, Oreb and Zeb, into your hands. And what I was able to do in comparison with you," then their anger toward him subsided when he said that. Then Gideon and 300 men who were with him came to the Jordan and crossed over, weary yet pursuing. He said to the men of Succoth, "Please give loaves of bread to the people who are following me, for they are weary, and I am pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." Leaders of Succoth said, "Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hands, that we should give bread to your army?" Gideon said, "All right. When the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will trash your bodies with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars." He went up from there to Penuel and spoke similarly to them. And the men of Penuel answered him, just as the men of Succoth had answered. So he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, "When I return safely, I will tear down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their armies with them about 15,000 men, all who were left of the entire army of the sons of the east, for the fallen were 120,000 swordsmen. Gideon went up by the way of those who lived in tents, and on the east of Nobal and Jogbehah, and attacked the camp when the camp was unsuspected. When Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued them and captured the two kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and routed the whole army. Then Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres, and he captured a youth from Succoth and questioned him. Then the youth wrote down for him the princes of Succoth and its elders and 77 men. He came to the men of Succoth and said, "Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, concerning whom you taunted me, saying, 'Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are weary?' He took the elders of the city and thorns of wilderness and briars, and he disciplined the men of Succoth with them. He tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, 'What kind of men were they whom you killed at Tabor?' And they said, 'They were like you, each one resembling the son of a king.' He said, 'They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if only you had let them live, I will not kill you.' So he said to Jether, his firstborn, 'Rise, kill them.' But the youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, 'Rise up yourself and fall on us, for as the man, so is his strength.' So Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and took the crescent ornaments which were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, "Rule over us, both you and your son, also your son's son, for you have delivered us from the hand of Midian." But Gideon said to them, "I will not rule over you, nor shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you." Yet Gideon said to them, "I will request of you that each of you give me an earring from his spoil." For they had gold earrings because they were Ishmaelites. They said, "We will surely give them." So they spread out a garment, and every one of them threw an earring there from his spoil. The weight of the gold earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, besides the present ornaments and the pendants and purple robes which were on the kings of Midian, and besides the neck bands that were on their camels' necks. Gideon made it into an ephod and placed it in his city, Ophrah, and all Israel played the harlot with it there, so that it became a snare to Gideon and his household. 40 years of peace. Verse 28. So Midian was subdued before the sons of Israel, and they did not lift up their heads anymore. And the land was undistributed for 40 years in the days of Gideon. Then Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and lived in his own house. Now Gideon had 70 sons who were his direct descendants, for he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shushan, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. And Gideon the son of Joash died at ripe old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah, and of Abiezerites. Then it came about, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the sons of Israel again played the harlots with the Baals, and made Baal Berith their god. Thus the sons of Israel did not remember the Lord their God, who had delivered them from the hands of their enemies on every side. Nor did they show kindness to the household of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in accord with all the good that he had done to Israel. And Abimelech, his son, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem to his mother's relatives and spoke to them and to the whole clan of the household of his mother's fathers, saying, "Speak now in the hearing of all the leaders of Shechem. Which is better for you, that 70 men, all of sons of Jerubbaal, rule over you, or that one man rule over you? Also remember that I am your bone and your flesh." And his mother's relatives spoke all these words on his behalf in the hearing of all leaders of Shechem. And they were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, "He's our relative." They gave him 70 pieces of silver from the house of Baal Berith, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless fellows, and they followed him. Then he went to his father's house at Ophrah and killed his brothers and the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. All the men of Shechem and all Beth Millo assembled together, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar which was in Shechem. Now when they told Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted his voice and called out. Thus he said to them, "Listen to me, O men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. Once the trees were forth to anoint a king over them. And they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Shall I leave my fatness with which God and men are honored, and go to wave over the trees? Then the tree said to the fig tree, You come, reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit and go to wave over the trees? Then the tree said to the vine, You come, reign over us. But the vine said to them, Shall I leave my new wine, which cheers which cheers God and man, and go to wave over the trees? Finally, all trees said to the bramble, You come, reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, If in truth you are anointing me as king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, may fire come out from the bramble and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Now therefore, if you have dealt in truth and integrity in making Abimelech king, and you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have dealt with him as he deserved. For my father fought for you and risked his life and delivered you from the hand of Midian. But you have risen against my father's house today, and have killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem, because he's your relative. If then you have dealt in truth and integrity with Jerubbaal and his house this day, rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and consume the men of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from Beth Millo and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham escaped and fled, and went to Beer, and remained there because of Abimelech his brother. Now Abimelech ruled over Israel for 3 years. Then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, so that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood might be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. The men of Shechem set men in ambush against him on the top of the mountains, and they robbed all who might pass by them along the road. And it was told to Abimelech. Now Gaal, the son of Ebed, came with his relatives and crossed over Shechem, and the men of Shechem put their trust in him. They went into the field and gathered the grapes of their vineyards and trod them, and held a festival, and they went into the house of their God, and ate and drank and cursed Abimelech. Then Gaal, the son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem? That we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, and is Zebul not his lieutenant? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, but why should we serve him? Would therefore that this people were under my authority, then I would remove Abimelech. And he said to Abimelech, Increase your army and come out. When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, the son of Ebed, his anger burned. He sent messengers to Abimelech deceitfully, saying, Behold, Gaal, the son of Ebed, and his relatives have come to Shechem. And behold, they're stirring up the city against you. Now therefore, arise by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. In the morning, as soon as the sun is up, you shall rise early and rush upon the city. And behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you shall do to them whatever you can. So Abimelech and all people who were with him arose by night and lay in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance of the city gate. And Abimelech and the people who were with him arose from the ambush. When Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, "Look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." But Zebul said to him, "You are seeing the shadow of the mountains as if they were men." Gaal spoke again and said, "Behold, people are coming down from the highest part of the land, and one company comes by way of the diviner's oak." Then Zebul said to him, "Where is your boasting now with which you said, 'Who is Abimelech?' and we should serve him? Is this not the people whom you despised? Go out now and fight with them." So Gaal went out before the leaders of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. And many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. Then Abimelech remained at Arumah, but Zebul drove out Gaal and his relatives so that they could not remain in Shechem. Now it came about the next day that the people went out to the field, and it was told to Abimelech. So he took his people and divided them into 3 companies and lay in wait in the field. When he looked and saw people coming out from the city, he rose against them and slew them. Then Abimelech and the company who was with him dashed forward and stood in the entrance of the city gate. The other 2 companies then dashed against all who were in the fields and slew them. Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he captured the city and killed people who were in it. Then he razed the city and sowed it with salt. When all the leaders of the towers Shechem heard of it, they entered the inner chamber of the temple of El-Berith. It was told Abimelech that all the leaders of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. So Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people who were with him, and Abimelech took an axe in his hand and cut down a branch from the trees and lifted it and laid it on his shoulder. Then he said to the people who were with him, "What you have done, what you have seen me do, hurry and do likewise." All the people also cut down each one his branch and followed Abimelech, and put them on the inner chamber, and set the inner chamber on fire over those inside, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem also died, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, and he camped against Thebez and captured it. But there was a strong tower in the center of the city, and all the men and women with all leaders of the city fled there and shut themselves in. And they went up on the roof of the tower. So Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and approached the entrance of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head, crushing his skull. Then he called quickly to the young man, his armor-bearer, and said, "Draw your sword and kill me, so that it will not be said of me, a woman slew him." So the young man pierced him through, and he died. When the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, each departed to his home. Thus God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he had done to his father in killing his 70 brothers. Also God returned all the wickedness of the men of Shechem on their heads, and the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal, came upon them. Now, after Abimelech died, Tola, the son of Pur, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, arose to save Israel, and he lived in Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim. He judged Israel 23 years. Then he died and was buried in Shamir. After him, Jared the Gileadite arose and judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 cities in the land of Gilead that are called Haboth-Jer to this day. And Jared died and was buried in Carmon. The sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord, served the Baals and Ashtaroth, the gods of Aram and the gods of Sidon, and the gods of Moab, the gods of the sons of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. Thus they forsook the Lord and did not serve him. The anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines and into the hands of the sons of Ammon. They afflicted and crushed the sons of Israel that year. For 18 years they afflicted all the sons of Israel who were beyond Jordan in Gilead, in the land of the Amorites. The sons of Ammon crossed the Jordan to fight also against Judah, Benjamin, and the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was greatly distressed. The sons of Israel cried out to the Lord, saying, "We have sinned against you, for indeed we have forsaken our God and served the Baals." The Lord said to the sons of Israel, "Did I not deliver you from the Egyptians, the Amorites, the sons of Ammon, and the Philistines? Also, when the Sidonians, the Amalekites, and the Moabites oppressed you, you cried out to me, and I delivered you from their hands. Yet you have forsaken me and served other gods. Therefore I will no longer deliver you. Go and cry out to the gods which you have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your distress." The sons of Israel said to the Lord, "We have sinned to do to us whatever seems good to you. Only please deliver us this day." So they put away the foreign gods from among them and served the Lord, and he could bear the misery of Israel no longer. Then the sons of Ammon were summoned, and they camped in Gilead, and the sons of Israel gathered together and camped in Mizpah. The people, the leaders of Gilead, said to one another, "Who is the man who will begin to fight against the sons of Ammon? He shall become head over all inhabitants of Gilead." And here, my brothers and sisters, ends the reading from Judges 8, chapters 8 through chapters 10. Have a blessed day. I look forward to continuing this journey in the next series.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Fear into Faith Global Bible Revival, where you know that we're on a mission to get 1 million people to read the Word of God for themselves. I'm your host, Summer Day, and with me in the studio today is Richard Namme. Hello.
Hi, Summer.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad to have you. Just tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Lagos, Nigeria. Born in Nigeria. I spent the first 20 years of my life in Nigeria, moved to England for grad school, and was in England for about 3-4 years.
And what did you go to grad school for?
I did development economics at the time, and I moved out to the States. I did economics, and then did a second master's in MIS, Management Information Systems.
Wow, you sound like a very driven young man.
Well, the truth is, a lot of the culture there is you got to be educated or you're out of the house.
Wow, educated or out?
You're out. There's no in-betweens for us. So, yeah.
Our parents, they're all about, just making sure that the next generation, I guess, has more and more opportunity.
Yeah, more opportunities. My parents started from very humble, my dad especially, very humble beginnings. His uncle sold his only asset, which was a gun. His uncle was a teacher, sold his gun to send him to school. So my grandfather passed away when my dad was younger. And so he was raised by his uncle.
Yeah.
And so the uncle made that sacrifice for his own son and my dad to go to school in Nigeria. So they were originally from Cameroon. And
wow. Wow. So then, I could see where there would be a little bit of expectation on you to go to school, on you to pursue higher education, because your dad was educated by the sale of a gun.
Yep. So, and my mom was one of the first women to have to graduate with a bachelor's in English in Nigeria. So she graduated in the 50s and also went and furthered her studies. So I have a mom who has a master's in her.
Come on.
So at that time in Africa, the African culture was not very common. So
yeah. For women to get educated at that level.
And so she met my dad when she was in college, and the rest is history. They got married.
Wow. When we talk about this project, I don't know if you know, this project started with just women.
Oh.
I did one Facebook Live. I was trying to find 5 friends to read the Bible with me. And the Lord decided that 6,700 women were going to see that video and come running and all invite their friends. It was crazy. But a lot of times when we would meet on Zooms or we would pray, yes, I was always saying, like, sometimes we forget that we live in a culture, we live in a day and age where, first of all, people have access to the Bible, where there's parts of the world that they don't. And even in this country, not that long ago, were you considered really well off if your family had a Bible? Like there wasn't 7 Bibles on every bookshelf, or every home. And women were not always educated. Even in this country, there was times and stuff where, the boys were sent to school, the women were taught to be homemakers and bear children and stay in, and they were not taught to read. And so it's like we live in such a time as this, where we not only as women, like, we're educated, we can read, and we have access to the Bible. Why would you not read it for yourself? So I love that. You had a very ambitious mom. She's like paving the way. So good.
And she went on to be an administrator in Nigeria in education. So a lot of young girls got their early starts with them. One story I remember was coming home from, I was in boarding school, coming home and seeing all those little slippers in front of our home. And I knew she had, some of her students. And I went in, I see her reading a book to them, and they're all having tea and biscuits. And that resonated and just reminded me that even though she was my mom, she was mom to all these other little girls. And she encouraged them. And most of these girls were in the school that came from other parts of the country to study in Lagos. And my mom was the principal of the premier school in Nigeria, girls' school called Queen's College.
Wow.
And so they came, they didn't have parents, and they were staying with no relatives. So during the exit days are when boarding school would allow the students to go out, visit their own parents.
Yeah.
But those girls from other parts of the country who didn't have their parents there with them, most of them were very poor, would basically, my mom just adopted them.
Oh, I love it. Wow, so good. And fabulous that your mom had such high standards of education, even when you didn't like it as a kid. But
I hated it.
But clearly it's done well. What is it that you do, my friend?
I provide furnished housing to displaced homeowners, and we also pay.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.